everyone. I hope you're doing well. Today I thought it'd be fun to bring out my AK-74 kit build, my Bulgarian AK-74 to be specific. Um, got the all plum furniture, which for some probably jumps out as being not necessarily true to form in terms of a Bulgarian 74, but I did bring out Bulgarian pistol grip just as a reference. So this is a Russian plum, or is what we call Russian plum grip. And then this is the Bulgarian, kind of more of like a reddish, pinkish orange. You'll hear it referenced as salmon. And there's a difference in the plastic too. Just this is got more of a plastic feel, whereas this has more of a, I'm not sure how to describe it. It just feels harder, maybe a little bit more robust, whereas this one feels more like a toy, I guess, or I don't really know how to explain it very well, but it definitely has a different feel in terms of the quality. I know that the furniture, from what I've read on the Bulgarian guns, the plum was all Russian produced. They didn't make the plum furniture, they just sourced it from Russia and tossed it on their guns when they were manufacturing them. And then on this build, obviously, this is a US receiver and US barrel. And I went ahead, this is my first build I've ever actually refinished or painted. I decided to go ahead and paint this gun just because it was a nice overall kit, and I don't like the two-tone you'll get because the Bulgarians painted their guns black just like the Russians, and so you would have seen like the barrel wasn't painted black and it would just have a different tone. You'd see the original finish on the front sight block and the gas block, gas tube, but then the barrel would have that kind of parkerized look as well as the receiver, and I wanted it to look kind of factory new, so I went ahead and painted it with a Rust-Oleum, like a high heat paint, kind of like what you'd use on like barbecues or something like that. And then I just cured the gun in the oven at 375 for an hour, and that seemed to set the paint pretty good, and I've had no issues. I think it looks all right. I mean, their paint jobs weren't perfect back in the day. It was more utilitarian than anything, but I think it turned out pretty good. Something else you'll notice on this is I've got holes in this receiver. This came with these two holes for the installing of a rail to put an optics mount on, and I just don't have a Bulgarian rail. At some point I'll get one and get that on there, but whatever. I'm not taking this out fighting wars or anything with it, so I'm not too worried about these holes just kind of being open to the environment. This is babied like all my other guns. But overall, I mean, it went together the same as any other AK. There's really no difference in building one of these versus building an AKM. They all go together the same, just different rivets for the different guns. But other than that, it's basically the same deal. This receiver here is a Waffen Works. I know this company is out of business now. It's been out for a while, but it's one that I had lying around, and it seems to work fine. I know from what I've read, there was quality control issues with their guns later on. I guess the early ones weren't bad, but this isn't one of their guns. It's just one of their receivers, and I don't know. I'm having no issues with it. The gun works flawlessly, nice and smooth. Seems to be fairly well put together receiver like anything else. I mean, it works, so it is what it is. Brought some mags out just from left to right. I'll go through. This one here is your Russian plum, so that's going to match the plum furniture on this gun really nicely. Kind of get that cool two-tone, darker black on the top and bottom, and then this plum kind of in the middle. I apologize for that. My phone decided to overheat because it's an iPhone. It just gives you that heat warning and becomes useless. It's only like 90 degrees out, so I don't know why it did that, but I might have to shut it down again and give it a break before I can finish filming, so I apologize for the breaks. Like I said, this is your Russian plum mag. This one here is a East German Bakelite. Got that cool swirly kind of wood grain pattern to it. Now, these four here are the Bulgarian, so this is going to be true to this gun. So I got kind of the four main colors here. This is your brick red, kind of it's got more of a reddish brown, whereas this is more of a like a lighter brown. Circle 21. This black one here is also Circle 21. And then this one I brought out, just Circle 10. And the gun is also Circle 10, and that was pretty much the main arsenal where they were building these and still make guns today. So get the Circle 10 there. Normally this would be engraved after the fact, I believe, because normally when you see it on these kits, that's kind of like silver looking from where they probably milled it out, or electro pencil, or however they did it, stamped it, and so it would show through the paint better. This one's been painted over obviously when I refinished the gun, so a little harder to read. And this grip, new old stock, is kind of cool. You can see the little ink stamp there from when they finished making it. Just for fun, I brought out a sealed can of 545 by 39, 7-in-6 Russian spam can, 1,080 rounds. And then here's some stuff that I've already got open, we'll be shooting today. And then just for comparison, you've got a 5.56 or 2.23, and I think this is one of my hand loads. And then this here is your 5.45 by 39. So you can see case is a little shorter, and the bullet is much longer and more spear-like. But super fast round. I think they're pretty accurate. I've had pretty good groups with them, and the recoil on these things are almost non-existent, so they're pretty pleasurable to shoot. I enjoy it. One last thing, bayonet. So this is your 74, kind of like a later pattern bayonet, also Circle 10. And I think this one is matching to the 8.9, yeah, so the blade and the scabbard match. And this also has that cool little stamp there, the ink stamping. Cyrillic-y, I guess, and number 1. Not sure what that means, but it's pretty cool. So anyways, like normal, we'll run it through some laps, shoot some steel, throw the bayonet on there so you can get an idea what that looks like, and just kind of demonstrate the gun, run it through its paces. We'll get to it. Back to the mags. You'll notice these have a slightly different curvature profile than your standard AK-47 or AKM mags. That's just because these bullets, the actual round itself, the cartridge, isn't as fat, so you have less of this need for an extreme curvature to help with the feeding, I guess is the best way to put it. These are a little bit straighter, kind of like a 5.56 mag, same thing. You don't need as much curve to it. I've had no feed issues with any of the different ones. Bulgarian, East German, Russian, they all seem to be fine, feed the same. Every once in a while you might find ones that are a little bit tighter, a little bit looser when they lock in. And just like your standard AKM, it's the same style or same way of loading, I guess. You've got your nub here, and that nub is going to lock in, and then you just rock back and it locks in place with your mag release, again being just that lever right here, spring loaded, or lever under spring tension, I guess would be the best way to say it. You just press back and then rock out. So for any AK purists out there, guys that shoot these things all the time, I don't. I shoot them for fun. And you'll notice my mag changes are slow because these things are expensive and getting harder to find, and I don't want to just dump them on the concrete like most of the guns I shoot out here. So from a tactical efficiency standpoint, not the best, but this is more for demonstration and to show the gun, the history, and the different mags and colors. Like this is the brick red Bulgarian, so we'll put some rounds through that. I will say the recoil on this thing, I love it. There's just none. It's so smooth. So I can't remember what I loaded this up to. I'm just going to dump it on this left plate about as quick as I can within control and just see how I do, see how the gun does. Really, not me. It's all the gun. Yeah, thing just, there's no muzzle rise. It's super light. It's like shooting a 22, really. I'd say in some cases this might actually be less recoil than your standard A2 birdcage on like a 16-inch AR-15. All right, like always, got to shoot with bayonet on. This one I'm pretty certain is new old stock and has never been fired while attached to a gun. It's perfectly clean. There's no wear or anything. I will throw a little shout out and say thank you to my buddy at Spartan Antiques, Jaron, for hooking me up with this. You can't really find a lot of this stuff anymore online. Everywhere you look, it's sold out. Pretty much the only way you're going to get this stuff is if you find someone that already owns it and is willing to sell it, or you get lucky somewhere, a couple of them show up on a store or website or something like that. But we'll go ahead and toss this on in a very slow manner since I'm not throwing anything on the ground and I don't have any pouches or anything. So it'll just slide right on over the front here, and just like other bayonets, it's going to lock onto the bayonet lug here at the base of the front sight block. All right, we're locked on. So kind of a cool design, a little bit different than your standard AK style bayonet. Most of them kind of have that same look. The blade, they all have that unique look. The serrations on this are a little bit finer than they are on your AKM bayonets. It still has the hole up front here for the wire cutters that you can use on the little lug that's on the sling, or not the sling, I'm sorry, the scabbard. But overall, same function, right? Pokey stabby thing at the end of a rifle. So we'll get this charged up and put some rounds through it. So I can feel just off the bat, because these AKs, or correction, the AK-74 is such a light gun compared to, say, an AKM. Just throwing that on the end, I can feel it wanting to dive in the front. You can feel that extra weight, even though it's not particularly a heavy bayonet. You can feel the balance change right off the bat. Clear. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Fun to be able to showcase it, put it on the gun, and run a few rounds through it. Since this is corrosive ammunition, now I get to go home and clean all this stuff, especially the bayonet, because I don't want it to rust in the scabbard. But I have this stuff. I want to bring it out and use it. There's no sense in just have it sitting around collecting dust. All right, we're going to do just a little practical accuracy test. 545 is supposed to be more accurate than 7.62 I've shot both. I think it is. But what we're going to do is we're just going to do a quick little practical accuracy. First, we're going to shoot 5 rounds from the 50. Then we'll move back to the 100, then 200, and then 300. And I'm going to shoot this standing just from a as non-best scenario for accuracy as you can get, right? This is just your standard combat accuracy, I guess would be the way to put it. All right, we're at 100. We're shooting at the left plate. And I've got these just kind of on the battle zero, so we'll see how well that pans out. Looked high. Yeah, so those were high. So I was holding like a high thoracic right about here. Looked like they were zipping over the head maybe by a few inches. So I had to hold bottom of plate, and that was getting me strikes. All right, down to 200. see how we do. Again, I'm not changing anything. I'm just keeping this battle 0 and see what happens. All right, from 200, I think there were 2 hits on steel. I think it gets harder to hear the rings back here, especially with Ear Pro on. Move up to the 300 and see what we do with 5 rounds. We're down here at the 300. Again, we're shooting that left plate. I think these are half size IPSCs. I don't remember off the top of my head. 300 yards, iron sights, standing. Let's see how it does. No hits today. Yep. So I could see a couple of them splash behind. The way that sight picture looks at this distance, it is about, the target is about half as wide as my front sight post. So if that's my front sight post, imagine the target you're shooting at it is half as wide or half as thick as your front sight post. And they're blue, so that doesn't help either. I probably should have painted them red or something, but now I'm just making excuses for my inability to hit the target from back here. But regardless, those rounds were still impacting around the target. So effectively, if you were the target down there, you would be looking for a place to hide and not be in direct line of sight of the gun. So I'd say effectively, yeah, it's great. This is a great gun. I think it'd get the job done. It's accurate enough for this sort of stuff. The recoil is super pleasant. It's pretty easy to shoot it quickly, regardless. The fact that it's an AK and they tend to have more recoil than say like an AR-15, but a lot of that has to do with the cartridge too, and so on and so forth. But overall, I think this is a good gun. I'd like to do like the AK-100 series, but I don't own any of those. But that would be like the new and improved, where they took what they learned improving on the AKM to the 74, and then they took this and put it into the 7.62 by 3.9, or what we know is the round that goes in the standard AKM, and redid that whole gun. And those are supposed to shoot pretty nice as well. I think the brake has a lot to do with it, and then specifically with the 74, the round also, just because it's a lighter round, less weight, right? If you've got a projectile that's not super heavy, you're going to have less felt recoil. Whereas a really heavy, like a 45-70, shooting like pushing like a 500 grain projectile out of an old lever action, solid wood stock, those things kick. They're fun to shoot, but they kick. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into designing a gun that has not a lot of recoil, and that's why they designed this. During the Vietnam War, the Russians got their hands on some M16s, started looking at it, look at the design, all polymer space age stuff, small round. You can carry a lot more ammunition for a lot less weight. And they decided we need to do something like this too. And that's basically where you get the 74, was this is the Russian response to the M16. So overall, pretty cool gun, cool piece of history, super fun to shoot. If you can get your hands on one, do it. Unfortunately, 5.45 is not the easiest to find anymore. It's been banned from import since like 14, I think. So what's out there is expensive, but if you can get one of the originals, they're fun. I know you can get them in 5.56, but in my mind, that's just kind of like a bastardization. This gun wasn't designed to shoot 5.56. It was designed to shoot 5.45 by 39. So that's why I opted to go with this, even though the ammo is a little harder to find. Eventually, maybe some company will start making it in the United States. It'll be easier to get, a little bit cheaper. But I think the days of super, super cheap 5.45 are gone. Appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed just a little showcase on the 74. Super fun to build. Pain in the ass to build, but fun nonetheless. Every time I build an AK, I've got something that comes up that you don't expect, that you've got to problem solve, some sort of issue, something doesn't fit right, what have you. But I enjoy doing the kind of the amateur gunsmithing thing on my stuff. It's a fun project. I enjoy it. Bringing these old parts kits that are just sitting in boxes and bringing them back to life and turning them into a usable firearm. And what's cool too is it's a nice little example of, you know, Cold War era, kind of early polymer. You get this purple, which I love the plum. There's debate whether that was intentional or not. I really don't know either way. A lot of people say that they were going for black, and it ended up coming out like this. I kind of have a little theory that if you look on all the other AKs, it was always kind of that like reddish wood look, like the wood had that reddish stain. What if they were trying to just mimic the reddish wood only in polymer or plastic, and it ended up coming out more purple than they wanted, right? I don't know. Nobody knows. It's all just guesswork. But nonetheless, it is cool. It's a cool kind of a unique example of this AK family of guns. Again, this one being Bulgarian. I know that the Bulgarian guns are about as close as you're ever going to get to a Russian AK-74. They started making them, I think it was in the early 80s, 83, 84, somewhere in there. I don't recall specifically. A lot of their parts originally they sourced from Russia, got spooled up, got the technical data for the guns, and then eventually started making all their own stuff, minus, from what I've read and heard, minus the plum furniture that was just Russian plum. They were the ones making it, supplied it to them to put the furniture on. I do have a kit for the Bulgarian wood. So the early style, the original AK-74, the wood, I will build that at some point, just not right now. They take time, they take money. So this is my kind of newest toy that I put together and enjoy shooting it. Cool example. Slings, I'll just throw out there too, since we're here talking about it. Slings are different for Bulgarian than Russian. Russian, you're going to see like that tan or more of a olive green. These kind of have more of like almost like a ranger green, the Bulgarian slings. But that's not really a huge difference. But if you want it to be accurate, if you're trying to create an accurate Bulgarian rifle and you want everything to be as true to Bulgarian as possible, find one of these kind of ranger green slings that goes with it, and that'll help it match pretty nicely. Yeah, that's about all I got for today. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one.